Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Earth Day virtual talk being brought to you by Island Space Caribbean Museum. My name is Juli-Ann Lee. I am the host of the Truly Julie Experience, and today I am honored to speak with Barbadian environmental activist and UNICEF Youth Ambassador Maria Marshall of Little Thoughts on Big Matters. Maria will let us know how she got started in environmental activism and getting noticed by UNICEF. And she will also give us some guidance on how to refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and repair for a sustainable next generation. Now, before we dive into the show, though, I do have a couple of asks. First, please contact everyone you know, adults and children. Tell them to start watching. This is a program that everybody will benefit from. Next, if you have any questions for Maria, you can add a comment to submit your question, and we will try to have as many of them answered as possible. But first, here is around a 1 minute video to give you an introduction to our guest.
We're making this thing seem difficult, but let me show you how easy it is to reduce, reuse, recycle, and repair. Recognize these? These are the great crates. And this is a moldy bottle I have been reusing to water the lettuce. My mom loves lettuce.
Alright, Maria, hurry it up.
Yeah, we don't use plastic bags anymore. We use these reusable bags instead, so we can reduce the amount of plastics we throw away. And yes, this is my chore to remember to bring these bags. Everyone appreciates a nice cool drink in a glass bottle. However, don't forget to recycle. I mean 25 cents per bottle. I don't mess with my piggy bank money. Don't just throw things away, repair them. By the way, I love this bag. See how easy that was? We can all reduce, reuse, recycle, and repair.
Okay, everybody, that was a brief introduction into our guest. Her name is Maria Marshall. She has been doing these environmental friendly activities for a while. We're going to meet her and find out how she got started and what she has in store planned for, going for now on. So, Maria, welcome and thank you for agree to share your time and knowledge with us today. I'm talking about environmental activism, being environmental friendly, and how we can help save our environment. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I want to say thank you for inviting me on here so I can share my little thoughts on some very big matters. And I got to see myself when I was like 10. It's crazy how much I've changed, not just with my physical features, but my activism as well.
How old are you now, by the way?
I'm 14 years old. I just turned 14 a while ago because, I'm born in April the 16th. Up to all of those people born in April.
Okay, happy birthday, belated birthday.
Thank you.
Okay, so you say you got started at 10. What exactly was the catalyst that made you say, okay, something needs to be done?
So, I was with my mother. We were driving, I think, two lessons because it was math lessons because we have a big exam here in Barbados, the 11 plus. Is an exam that determines the next level of education, which school you're going to go to. Pretty big. Math wasn't really my strong point, so I had to go to lessons for it. But aside from that, someone threw a bottle. I think it was a guy. He threw a bottle out of a moving vehicle while we were driving. My mom swerved to avoid it, and she didn't really know what it was. So she swerved. We almost got into like a little accident there on the freeway, and it was a very traumatic experience for me. And kind of it popped my bubble because I thought everyone was environmentally friendly like my parents and wouldn't do something silly like throwing a bottle out of a moving vehicle when they know that people would probably be behind them. And that was a very eye opening situation for me. That was the catalyst that caused me to start becoming an advocate like what I am now. But I never set out trying to become what I am today.
Okay, that's the next question I was going to ask you. I was going to say, when that happened, and you said that you didn't realize that you realized that not everybody was as environmentally aware as you were. When you are doing all these things, making sure you put your garbage, where it needs to be, did you realize that you are being environmentally friendly, or it's just that's how you grew up doing it all the time?
That was how I grew up doing it because my mother, she always liked having like a kitchen garden. We were always environmentally friendly when it came to not littering. To me, it felt like common sense, but I know that no, to some people, it's not always common sense. It's not always so common, and I felt that I needed to give a refresher on how important our environment is and ways that we could be more environmentally friendly. But to me, those were just things that I did almost every day. So I just shared them with the world.
Okay, so once you realized that more people need to know how to be environmentally conscious, what was the first thing that you did? You said something needs to be done. What was the first thing that you did?
The first thing that I did was we had a competition. Well, we have this competition here in Barbados. It's the Oystins Fish Festival. And I believe this was the year of 2018, in which I wrote an essay that won first, by the way, in this Oystins Fish Festival. I won money for my school, and I had wrote about that incident that happened with the car. And I just wanted to share that story because I know a lot of people might find that interesting, you know?
Okay, interesting, because it's the first time they're hearing about that this needs to be done.
Because I don't think a lot of those stories were like talked about in Barbados because it was kind of like, I guess it was like a normal occurrence. And I also felt a little traumatized, so it was like, I'm a child that I like to share things that happened bad that kind of traumatized me so much that I wanted to write an essay about it because I was like, this dude cannot get away unscathed. I must write something about this.
Okay. So with doing all of that and realizing that people need to be educated, did there come a time that you realized that, listen, if people don't start becoming environmentally conscious, that we are in trouble and we could be in serious trouble? Was there a point that you said, hey, this needs to be done or else we won't have a world to enjoy?
Yes, actually, I had always used to think that climate change was a big thing, but I never really understood how big it was up until I believe 2020 because we had went to a beach and I remember this beach being a lot bigger, and I guess this was my first interaction with coastal erosion, and the beach had severely shrunk a little bit, and I know that I may have not noticed it if I wasn't going to the beach as often because of COVID, I wasn't really going to the beach as much as I used to. So I had stopped going to the beach, and then I came back to the beach and it shrunk, and I was like, "Oh my god, we're on this tiny little rock called Barbados, and you're telling me that this is going unscathed and people aren't noticing it? This could be detrimental because the whole island could just disappear just like that."
Right. Oh, wow. So you kept doing your activities, you kept trying to expose people to let them realize why it's important to be environmentally friendly. And then at some point along the route, UNICEF noticed what you were doing somehow, and they appointed you a youth ambassador. What was it that led up to that point that got them to notice you?
Well, it wasn't somehow because a series of events had happened. I won first place in the Oysters Fish Festival, the writing competition. Then I had started my filming kind of because my dad had a little red camera. He wanted to throw it away, and he, because my family is normally very environmentally friendly, environmentally conscious, he didn't really want to, so he tried to like get me into filmmaking so that I could use the camera myself just to see what would happen. And I started to make little silly films of my cats or things that I found interested outside my house. Um, and he told me, why don't you use this filmmaking skills and your story writing skills and be a little bit more productive with them? So I made my first video, which I titled Little Thoughts on Big Matters, which would have been showed as I came on. And I had entered that into the Small Island Future Fest, which is SIF, and I had won first place. And I was like, so happy with that. And then I went on to enter that into NIFCA because I figured if I could win first place in SIF, then I wonder how well it would do in NIFCA, which is the National Independence Festival for Creative Arts here in Barbados. And I won a bronze. And I also became the youngest award winning female filmmaker on the island in Barbados. And this is what made UNICEF notice me. But at that time, I think I was like 11 or 10 still. Actually, no, I was still 10. Um, and I was too young to become a UNICEF youth advocate. So they made me a UNICEF change maker. And I remember getting the call for that, and I was very excited. And then COVID hit. And I guess for me, COVID was a pretty good thing because it kind of softened the blow because I was able to readjust to the new responsibilities that I had of being a UNICEF change maker. And I was able to figure out that or like realize that I wasn't really like the other activists that I was seeing. I didn't use placards, and I noticed that not a lot of people were posting things that were environmentally friendly, not just because it was COVID, people were in lockdown. And this posed many different challenges because during this time, as I said before, Barbados was going through a little bit of a lockdown. So it was very hard to get content. However, I was definitely inspired from daily things that happened throughout my life because I remember a lot of stuff happened, like ashfall, um, and a ton of other things. It was crazy. So soon after I started to make these videos, I had spoken with Orlando Bloom because I had made my first video. UNICEF picked me up, and then like a few months later, I spoke with Orlando Bloom. Um,
So let me say that you have spoken to some people that their adults would
yes.
love to speak to heads of state, celebrities, other public figures. So continue to let us know exactly what happened with Orlando Bloom when you had that conversation. And I'm going to ask you to just go right into after that when you met with Mia Motley.
Oh yeah, because it was right after this. It's
Oh,
crazy. So I spoke to Orlando Bloom in I think November. um, not November, no, but I spoke to him, and he was really nice. He was a really nice person. It was like he was a friend of my dad. I'd met him before, and I wasn't really a kid that was watching a lot of blockbuster movies, so I didn't really know who he was. So it was like he didn't know who I was, and I didn't know who he was. Our conversation was very natural, and it wasn't anything strange. And I found that our conversation, it was really nice and it was really wholesome. I I really liked speaking to him. And then I went to bed and I kind of forgot about it because this happened late at night. And then I'm pretty sure the night that I had this conversation, the morning that I woke up, my dad started to get a lot of calls on how I spoke to him, and apparently, the video that UNICEF had posted about our conversation because it was for World Children's Day, for World Child Month, no, Child Month, and it blew up basically overnight. I'm pretty sure, and a lot of people, like my friends, teachers from my school, started to speak to me about how I was on I was speaking with Orlando Bloom and it became a really big thing. And then a few weeks later, I think less than a week, the prime minister called to speak to me, and I was a little bit stunned, but I got out of my English class that day. We drove to meet her. We went to the wrong place, and we kept the prime minister waiting. And I was very nervous, but she waited. And then I went into her living room in Alara Court, and I was kind of stunned by a bunch of cameras and their flashes, and it was like a deer in headlights. But I was able to be calm by
Was
the
that
prime.
the first time you were ever in a setting like that, being interviewed with all these cameras?
Yes, and I
Okay.
was very nervous. And I think my hands were shaking. But when I went out of it, I had asked, "Did I look nervous?" And I was like, people said, "No, you didn't look nervous at all. How are you like this?" And I was like, "Whoa." But anyways, she was able to calm me down. I spoke with her. I had a really nice conversation with Madam Mia Motley, and it was a really nice conversation. We spoke about some very interesting topics.
Okay. So, do you remember any of those topics, like what you spoke about? Was it about your film or, um,
I remember she had compared me to Rihanna, and I
uh,
felt very honored because she is a superstar and she is a national hero of Barbados. And I think Rihanna is such a cool person. She's very awesome. I find it very interesting how she's able to carry herself so well. And another thing, a conversation that we had, which was I think I had made a promise that I was going to make a second film, which I did end up making. And then after my conversation with the Prime Minister, I went on and off in local TV, um, CBC in the Caribbean, and a few other shows like Morning Barbados. And I had many nice conversations with the hosts on there. And then it kind of spiraled into what it is now. I became a healthy, environmentally friendly youth ambassador. And I'm pretty sure in 2021, sometime around there, I became a UNICEF youth advocate for the environment, and I became the youngest one. And
so wait, you're the youngest environmental activist for UNICEF and
youngest UNICEF advocate in the Eastern
advocate
Caribbean.
in the Eastern Caribbean, and you're also the youngest award-winning filmmaker in Barbados.
Yes, a lot of
All this by the age
decisive.
of what, 11? Kudos and congrats.
Thank you. Because it kind of all happened all at once. I'm still not really able to process all of what happened because this happened in less than a year. All of that, talking to a movie star, the prime minister of my country, and then I basically beat a few records in 2021. Well, at least to me.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, so what is your message to the world about being environmentally friendly and conscious?
My message to the world is not only what I say all of the time, which is my quote, we only have one environment and we must protect it, but also you do not have to do a lot of crazy things like speak to the prime minister of your country or speak to a movie star to be an activist. You do not have to do that. Activism can be done in many different ways by reusing, refusing, reducing, recycling, and repairing, or by telling your friends at school, hey, you know what would be crazy? If we did a beach cleanup or something. You don't have to do anything big. People need to realize that you can be an activist in any way as long as you're doing something good for the environment. You're an activist.
Okay, so I know, or I'm going to assume that because you've been brought up in that environment, it's easy for you, right? It's easy for you to be conscious of, okay, you see these things, put it in the garbage, stuff like that. Or how can I use something that already exists for something else so that it doesn't, so that I don't have to unnecessarily throw it away. But in your activism, how easy and how well received do you think that message is being received by adults and by children?
I believe by adults it is pretty well received, but by children, I know that a lot of secondary school students, they don't really care about the environment either because school is very demanding. Managing my activism, my advocacy, and school is very difficult. I know that a lot of children are very focused on getting that A plus, trying to maintain their grades and stuff. It is very hard to stay focused on being environmentally friendly as well. And I know a lot of children might not be, they might not have grown up in such of a environmentally friendly environment like me. And I'm very honored to be what I am, but I do understand that not everyone is as lucky as I am.
To have been taught about it and be aware so that you can also go on and teach other
Inspire
people.
other people.
Right. So we know that there are many actions that have a negative impact on the environment. In your opinion, what do you think is the biggest environmental issue, and what do you think is the easiest to be, that can be quickly, or it's easier to do something about?
I think the biggest environmental issue is also the easiest one to solve. It is a combination of lack of proper education on the environment and a certain level of lack of care for the environment that can also be solved by education. Because I believe that educating the youth is extraordinarily important to helping fight the climate crisis and help saving the environment. I believe I will speak about this in a video that will be shown shortly.
Right. Okay, so that brings us to that video. um so I'm just gonna have it queued up so that it can. Okay. Like where you at. I like everything about you.
When purchasing items, it is good to look at not only what the items are, but what they are packaged with. I love hard-boiled eggs and always make sure that my family buys eggs in paper-like containers or reuse old containers to minimize garbage. You can actually use these little egg wells as excellent seeding trays that can be directly planted into the soil or plant pot when seedlings sprout. Also, planting certain flowers in your garden can actually act as a natural pest control while encouraging good insects like ladybirds and bees. I always try to minimize buying plastic bottles, but always find ways to repurpose, recycle, or reuse them.
Here, I have decided to make a fun cat toy for my cat Pumpernickel. Always be mindful of toys with animals because some can be toxic or choking hazards. I repurposed the plastic wrapper to create a fun little toy for him. I made a decorative and functional light from one of the plastic bottles and made it extra special with a flower made from one of the toilet paper rolls that I collect and repurpose for my art/craft projects. I try to encourage my mom to buy items in glass containers because there are many ways that these can be reused and repurposed. I decided to use this jam jar for a desk caddy that I can see exactly what pens and pencils I actually have. You can soak it to remove the label and even paint it or decorate it, but I like to just leave it plain and let the items it holds be the decoration. As a student, I find that I am constantly requiring supplies to create interesting projects, and I like to make sure that these projects incorporate mainly or entirely reused, recycled, and repurposed items. I use items that would have been discarded in the trash, such as cans, cardboard, shoeboxes, toilet paper rolls, used foil, and lids to create an art piece, which so happened to be depicting the importance of taking care of the environment.
Okay. So we just saw your video that shows people how they can use things that they already have. Like you made a lamp, you made a light, you made a cat toy and things like that. So did you get those ideas from anywhere, or were they just things that came to your head and you just decided, hey, let me see how I can use, the label on a Coke bottle to make a cat toy?
That lamp one, that just came into my mind out of nowhere. But the one with the cat toy, I know a lot of people have been doing this for a while. That is something that I did in one of my older videos I did when I was younger. It was in my Little Thoughts on Big Matters video. Um, for me, this is more or less a slightly more mature version of my Little Thoughts on Big Matters video that I did when I was a very tiny child, because almost everything in it parallels what I did when I was a small child. Well, no, a very tiny child.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to, I mean, I'm taking you back to that video now. Um, who or what was it, who was the assistants that helped you get that video together? Were you the director and the producer, and then you told the cameraman what to do when, where, or how did that video come together?
Well, I was kind of the actor, the director, and the producer of it. I had some assistance from my dad when getting the shots, because at that time, what I would do would I would get a bunch of books and stack them on top of chairs to try and get the shot. But my dad realized what I was doing. He was like, "No, that's too dangerous. I'll just help you with that so that you don't break your own camera." And that's kind of how it happened because I wrote a storyboard for that, and it was a very fun little project of mine. I didn't really expect it to blow up this much.
So from that, you currently have a YouTube channel
Yeah.
called Little Thoughts on Big Matters, the same name as the movie. When did you decide to do that? Was it a natural thing that said, okay, I won an award for this, so what can I do with this? Or how did that YouTube channel come about? And what is it used for?
I wanted to always become a YouTuber, but the biggest argument my parents had against me was, "What are you going to post on this YouTube channel?" So I made my first video, and it gained so much traction. So I was like, "This is what I can do with my YouTube channel. I can make educational videos for climate change and the environment to inform and probably inspire others to do the same." And sometime around that time, I realized that I like making short videos. So what I did was I made an Instagram because I took advantage of the Instagram Reels so that I could easily make videos and I could build a bigger community.
Okay. We're gonna see one of the videos that you put on Instagram at the end of the before we close out. But one thing I wanna ask is, since your UNICEF appointment, what are some of the activities that you have done to spread awareness?
To spread awareness, I have started in 2021, early 2021. I made a campaign called What's Your Climate Action? What's Your Climate Action is a hashtag and it's also a campaign. I made it to inform, inspire, and act as a platform for other people to share what they're doing through this hashtag. And I'm currently working on the second half of my What's Your Climate Action campaign, which is a initiative called Blue, Green, and Everything in Between. Blue, Green, and Everything in Between is not just an ordinary beach cleanup slash park cleanup. I want to work together with a lot of secondary schools in Barbados to collect data on garbage, not just for garbage collecting sake. Not only does it beautify our environment, but I also would like to collect information on what kind of garbage are we collecting, where it comes from, and how can we monetize this garbage. Because I know that in Barbados, we are struggling with money. We already have monocrop tourism, which is already not good for the environment. And the garbage is going to be coming anyway, so it's best to not let it strangle us.
I have never heard somebody ask, how can we monetize garbage before? That is such uh, an inventive way to put it. How can we monetize garbage? Because I'm sure if a lot more people hear that, because me just hearing that, I'm trying to think of, okay, how can I monetize garbage? So that I can save, and I am an adult. I know back when I was a little kid, yes, that's eons and eons ago. What what I know people like my friends used to do is we'd get like old t-shirts and cut it up and put elastic in there and make scrunchies or things like that, and we sell them, right? So what are some of the videos or some of the tips that you have on your YouTube channel on what people can do to, as you say, monetize garbage, or just use things that they have to make other things,
Well,
or in
I
other.
know in Barbados, for my country, there in my Low Thoughts on Big Matters video, a lot of tips are used there. Not all of them are monetization, but the base format for what you can use, like as an example of sorts, to figure out how you can monetize depending on what you're good at. Um, I sewed a bag, and I know that a lot of people can repair or make bags out of scrap material that would otherwise be thrown away. And I know fast fashion is a big problem. And I remember that from that video there, I was packing bottles, and I know that there are bottle recycling people all around the world, not just in Barbados, because we have those here too. You can turn in those bottles to them for them to recycle them. Um, and a few other newer ideas I've come up with. However, I will not share those because those are my trade secrets.
Okay. I mean, hey, at this point, your trade secrets are your trade secrets. So they, I'm confident that they'll come out eventually
Actually,
so that they can help. They can help, others. We do have a question. Where do you learn about the methods you promote?
I have parents that sometimes they share me things that I as like suggestions that I can promote. However, I do learn about a lot of the things that I promote normally through as I go through my daily life, like what happened with that bottle. That was one of the first instances of me seeing something wrong and acting on it. It always depends on what happens as I go through my day, because there are plenty of videos that I've been posting that have been inspired not just by days that are environmentally friendly in the year, but also from experiences that I've had in my life.
Okay. I One thing that just came to me, and I don't know if they have it in schools there. I don't even know if they have it in the schools in the States, is I think every school at whatever grade level, whether it's high school, college, or something, everybody should be made to do environmental awareness class, wherever in the world that you live, whether it's the Caribbean, Europe or something. I think it would be value added, in every educational level, to have at least, you have to go through a semester of an environmental awareness class. Hmm.
I think that's a good idea because I personally believe that education is important, especially for young children. Maybe not a class, but a club, more environmental clubs should be implemented, and I do believe they should be mandatory. But whether it be a class or a club or some after school activity, I do believe more environmentally friendly stuff needs to be taught in the school systems now, because at least for me here in Barbados, it's math, English, French, and sciences.
Yeah,
And I mean, we have coding and robotics too, but to some children, those are just free periods or easy classes.
right.
Do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years?
Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? Running for office, leading an NGO?
I see myself being a doctor and helping people because my biggest dream or aspiration is to become a prosthetics doctor, because I want to find out a way that I can merge being environmentally friendly to some extent and helping people together. And I know I've seen a lot of other people do this, but I would like to find materials that I can use instead of the other materials that aren't really so environmentally friendly that are used in prosthetics, like plastics and metals to make prosthetic arms.
Right. Okay. That's a way to combine, your love for the environment with helping people who need prosthetics. Are there any environmental activists that you admire who you would like to meet one day?
I would like to meet Sir David Attenborough because he kind of inspired me to become, um, I guess I would be a digital activist. I'm not sure, because I know that he has dedicated almost his entire life to becoming an activist. He's seen the changes around the world happen, because what he does is he's kind of like me. He's not a placard activist. He sees something wrong and he acts on it, and he uses the um, area or film of media to voice his advocacy.
Okay. Now, I know based on age, when you started and how old you are now, have you been or had heard the comparison of yourself to Greta Thunberg?
Yes, I've
Okay.
heard that comparison quite a few times. However, Even though me and Greta Thunberg, we are both activists, we each approach activism completely differently. She is what I would call a placard activist, and I am very amazed by people who can do this because it takes a lot of confidence to be able to go out there and voice for something that's wrong and do that. However, because of when I started to become an activist, I am more digital as I am speaking to you from my computer right now because when I started, it was during COVID, so I kind of adapted to fit my activism being on media, on a digital aspect of it, and also not just because of the fact that there was COVID. I also like art, I like filming, and I like to write stories. So I just combined those together to become what I am today, even though I never really expected or intended to become what I am.
Well, the way I think, I mean, it's good that you like to do it from the digital perspective because the way I see things is there are many ways to attack a problem so that you achieve the results that you want. You both want the same result, but you're attacking it from different areas, and that's needed because especially in your age group, we know a lot of kids nowadays they are online. So some may become placard activists, as you say, but before they even can do that, they spend so much time online that they need to see something online for them to get interested, right? So your kind of activism is needed, especially to reach youth nowadays. Now, another question, are you still ever overwhelmed by the size of the platform you have? Do you encourage other kids to do big things at this age, or would it be overwhelming for most 10 to 14-year-olds?
I would say yes, I am still overwhelmed quite frequently from the platform that
You
I'm
don't
given.
look it,
I
so
don't. I might
I
not
just
look
say
it. That's
you
because
sound and look and talk and act so poised, put together, as if you're such a pro at this. And you've been doing this for like what, 4 years, not counting being raised in it, but from 10 to 14. So you look very poised and put together, calm, cool and collected, as we say. But
yeah, I guess it's something that I kind of picked up because a lot of my family members are they're very chill people. So I guess I kind of that chillness kind of rubbed off on me. So I might be freaking out sometimes internally, but I look fine on the outside. But I do encourage young children to do big things because we do need people. We need a lot of people doing all sorts of different jobs to get something to work. Because I know in biology it takes a lot of different types of cells to form up tissues. We need a lot of tissues working together to form organs. We need organs cooperating with one another to form organ systems to keep the body running. And if we think of everyone here as a cell, the earth will continue to run. But the difference between us and the body, we rely on our body. Once you take a specialized cell out of the body, it's going to die. We rely on the earth to keep us alive. I don't think that's what people realize because, as I said in a video, Letter to the earth can change. We cannot.
okay. So before we go to the video, I'm gonna ask from your personal opinion. Out of things like climate change, plastics being in your water, um, things like you have garbage dumps being built up, beaches being eroded. What do you think is the most detrimental, negative impact right now?
I can't pinpoint one because everything on this planet is interconnected. The sand is going to end up somewhere on this planet. We might not exactly see it now because it might be a very small amount. However, I do believe that climate change as a whole is a very big problem. and we can't just focus on one aspect of it. We need to focus on it as a whole in order to solve it. However, I do believe we can kind of section things off to help combat it in a way. Like how you might have like 7 assignments for homework, you might do your English assignment first because that might be the easiest, and then work your way down as you go.
Okay. So let's say you had 10 children in front of you and you want, apart from a beach cleanup, because we know you do beach cleanups, right? And you you have them for 2 hours and you want to teach them some environmentally aware, friendly activity. What are a couple of things that you would teach them? Like what would you show them, or what would you tell them they should start doing or they can start doing?
I think I would try to inspire them to be more environmentally friendly. I know that I am more of a visual learner, so what I would probably do is I would first show them a video, and then I would talk to them for a little bit about how some of the issues with climate change are affecting us depending on where they live. Of course, I would change the subject matter to seem more real because I know I'm in the Caribbean and I might be talking to some kids from a completely different area and they would not understand climate change is the same thing because I know a lot of people know climate change about the glaciers melting, but that glacier melting affects us in the Caribbean in a different way. So I would talk about if they live in the Caribbean, maybe coastal erosion, and then I would probably show them some pictures of coastal erosion so that they get the idea in their head that hey, this is actually happening right in front of my eyes. It's not something that happens just randomly willy nilly. Like this is a big problem. Just to spark their minds, and then I would try and get them into maybe being interested in the environment so they look up this information by themselves because I know you can teach someone how to like you can teach someone in school a certain subject but they're not really going to retain any information if they're not interested by themselves, like you go to school every day and you learn things, but you're not going to constantly look through that because I know that you might be learning a language at school, but you need to go home and do some studying for that by yourself so you can get a basic understanding of whatever that subject matter might be.
Okay, I hear some workshops and summer camps and everything coming from that response. So I know you'll be putting some of those, you'll be implementing some of those. Now, we're gonna show the next video, Invest in Our Dear Earth. Tell us a little bit about that. You said, is it that I heard you say something about it's a letter to the environment, letter to Earth? Can you
Yes.
clarify what this video will be?
Okay, so my video, A Letter to the Earth, is almost as if I am a renter living in the apartment and the landlord is Earth, and I'm giving them a word of encouragement because some of the other tenants might be a little too noisy or they might be, damaging some property, and I'm telling them to stay strong. Sometimes I laugh at the tenants, but then I remember you can kick us all out. You know, I'm not in the same position as the Earth or the tenant, not the tenant. I mean the landlord.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna show the video now and then come back to wrap up.
Dear Earth, I will be polite and ask you how you are doing, but I know you are having a rough time right now. This is the reason why I thought that I should send you an encouraging word. I think it is because I am being selfish too. I really do not want to lose all of the good stuff that you have been providing me, like fresh air and the beautiful ocean. I can't tell you how much I love the ocean. People seem to have lost sight of the reality that you are all that we have, And as far as I understand, there is nowhere else for us as humans, and we do terrible jobs in trying to replicate nature. If human beings continue to allow the selfishness, greed, and lust for complete power to take over, we will have nothing left. I'm not saying to go back to living in caves, but if we are not careful, that might be the only option if it gets any hotter. And even then, I am sure that we would most certainly mess that up too. My mom always tells me to appreciate the things of value that I have been given. When she says this, she usually means the things that money can't buy, like my family, my health, my youth, and you, planet Earth. I just wish people thought about how mean their actions are sometimes towards you. You must have a good laugh at us with the other planets when we think that we are in control, doing whatever we want, and thinking there will be no consequences. Honestly, I laugh too, but then I remember I am not you and just can't resurface and change. I want you to stay the planet that supports the life and creates life, but people just can't see that is what it's all about. On a brighter note though, I have been trying to do my part to help educate and learn how I can keep you our home. I get a little discouraged sometimes and I worry I will become numb to it all and just not see what is really happening. I realize it is a conscious decision that all human beings must make to be kind to each other, kind to the earth, and kind to ourselves. It is true. We only have one environment and we must protect it. Your loving tenant, Maria Marshall.
Wow, that is inspiring. Even as an adult, I'm watching this and I said, okay, I try to be environmentally conscious and aware, but I never thought of it like that. That we can get kicked out. The way that you put it has been it it got to me, right? And I've kind of been doing my part for a while, but that just let it hit home even more. Now, any final thoughts you want to leave with the viewers, with anybody watching? And then after that, please just remind us where we can go, where they can go to get information if they want to contact you about programming or just to get tips on how they can do their part.
Well, they can contact me through my Instagram or they can just support me on my YouTube channel by subscribing or liking. My Instagram is Thought Squad by Maria, and my YouTube is Little Thoughts on Big Matters. Um, and my message that I would leave everyone with is that we only have one environment. We must protect it. We cannot find another Earth. We are not that advanced to terraform an entire planet to suit our needs. We might have to go and find other ways to survive on this earth. We might have to do some serious adaptations if we do not change right now. Because I've said this in a different video, the window of opportunity for us to fix this so that we do not end up making ourselves extinct, as along with many other animals on this planet, is getting smaller and smaller, but it's not impossible. It's just getting smaller and it's getting gonna get a little bit harder every time we slack off.
Okay. Well, Maria, I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing your experience and your knowledge, and for being so not only educational but inspirational. Because I know that a lot of people, a lot of young people, people your age, are looking on you, they're watching this, and they're like, you're getting some interest from them. You have poked some interest in them, and some will go ahead and do some research, as you said we all need to do. So it is inspiring, and I know that you will, just from this conversation, you have and will inspire others. I also want to thank the viewers for watching, and Island Space, thank you for allowing this conversation to happen. All right. So until then, everybody, just remember that We only have one environment. We need to protect it. So do what you can. All right. All right, Maria. Thanks again.
Thank you.